She said she has friends in her dorm. Okay, Celeste. But she also said, which, by the way, hey, Celeste, she also said she has friends in the neighborhood too. But, we saw how that played out. Speaking of which, I would like to now talk about the neighbors. And I put together a little something for you guys. Well, let's just see what happens with the neighbors. Let me pull this up.
I had several people that came up to me in that apartment complex said that you were drunk on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Regularly.
Right.
Really?
Right. Talk to the property manager. Talk to the property manager.
Okay.
Can you state your name?
Melissa May Sexton.
You are the property manager of this complex, correct?
Yes.
Tenants Sarah Boone and Jorge Torrez.
Mm-hmm.
They have lived here, you gave us a date of February 9th, 2018?
Correct.
Okay.
Sarah, shortly after she moved in with George, she came to the office to talk to me. We noticed bruises and stuff on her, and she asked me if she could talk to me privately and asked how she would be able to get George off of the lease. Is there any way to do that? Which prompted, deeper conversation. She proceeded to let me know and was showing me a lot of bruises and marks. There were handprints, scratches. She even at one point had to go to the hospital. Through multiple conversations that we had, it steadily progressed. She had a very large gash at one point in her shin. She had to go to the hospital and get that taken care of. I'm not exactly sure what it was from, but I think it had to do when they got into a fight outside and something got broke. I think it was one of their wine glasses or something. But, she came to me at one point asking, what do I do? Like, how can I get rid of him? I've never dealt with this type of situation. I just counseled her as she continued to come to me and explained to her that, she had to make a decision if she was going to stay with him or not be with him. If she, was going to try to work things out, they needed to seek out therapy, help, something. It wasn't too long after that last conversation that I found out the police had come and George was arrested. I don't remember about how long it was in between time, but there was another incident after that where they both got arrested, all for domestic. The complaints throughout their whole term, roughly about 20 to 30 noise complaints, fighting, arguing, banging on doors, loud music. It was just always something pertaining to their lifestyle. I do know that I have seen both of them intoxicated as early as 9 o'clock in the morning, and I mean staggering, falling down intoxicated, both of them. There was a noise complaint that I had received about some fighting one day that was going on, and Sarah was actually wandering around the property very drunk, barefoot, not properly dressed, I'll say it like that, sitting on the side of her building over by the retention pond. When I was told about that is when I approached Sarah, sat down, talked to her. I even had also separately went and talked to George and told them that once they had sobered up, I needed to have a meeting with them. The following business day, because this was a Friday, I do remember that, I went to see them Monday, roughly about 12 o'clock. They were sober. They apparently had some epiphany, that they were going to straighten themselves up and start acting right. And they did very good for, basically until now. I haven't gotten any complaints since May of the past year, But up until that point, the complaints were consistent, monthly, always.
Would you ever speak with George by himself? Like, did he ever confide in you about their relationship?
The one time where, like I was just saying, that when I talked to her, she asked me to go talk to him. But she's like, please, but put the fear of God in him. Fear of God in him. I'm a very stern property manager, I don't tolerate a whole lot of crap.
Right.
And she knew that, and she seemed scared of him at the time. So I said, sure, no problem, just stay here. We'll go talk to him. I went over, sat down, talked to George. I talked to him for about 30 minutes altogether. And, George had explained to me that she was actually the aggressive one. And the reason she ended up with marks is, in my perception of what he was trying to explain is that she's very hands-on, in the face, dramatized in talking and explaining or fussing or whatever they might have been doing.
Right.
And I believe that because Jean, my assistant, doesn't even like to deal with her, would avoid her like the plague.
She was very touchy-feely. Ooh, I hate that. I really hate that. People that are like that, especially if you're drunk. Uh, I think that's what set George off. They would probably go out. You guys saw that second video where she's all happy to see the cops again. And remember, she said she wanted to hug the one cop. And it's like, that's the way she was with men. She's very flirty. She was very flirty. She's probably like that with the guards, except for the fact that when she was doing that, she was drunk. So I don't know if she was always that drunk when she was acting that way. And it just kind of makes me think, well, if you're her boyfriend, I could see where that would kind of get to you, that she does that a lot. But you could just tell she's an attention seeker. That's her main game. It's all about her.
Because she was always drunk and she's very hands-on. There was one day, as a matter of fact, it was that same day that I talked to George by himself. She kept grabbing me by the arms to the point that I told her, I said, "You touch me one more time, we're gonna have a problem. I'm either gonna contact the police or whatever we need to do, but you can't keep grabbing on me." I had asked her several times to quit touching me. And because of that, she would do the same thing to Jean, and Jean didn't like it.
Right.
So, that's what he was explaining to me, is she was always the touchy one, the aggressive one, not that she was hitting him, but she would be like in his face, or she might, push him, or, little things like that. And she would block him from coming out of the room or whatnot, and he would take her and move her. You know what I mean? And just, that's the way he had explained it to me.
Right.
She has told me, even literally to Monday, I have been told by her several occasions that he has drug her around by the hair of her head. I've been, told about by neighbors. I'm sorry I don't have it anymore, but at one point a tenant actually sent us a video clip via text of them two fighting and beating on each other out in the backyard. There was another complaint incident about a ladder being propped up to the wall that George was using to climb over the wall to try to get back into his apartment, sneaking in and out. There was another night, sorry, I forgot to tell you about this too. I got a call for one of my vacants in building 24, 4724, which is not the building. There was a tent set up on my vacant back porch. And it's apparently where George was sleeping for a couple of nights because she had him out of the house. I have another tenant here who may or may not speak to you, I'm not sure. For that reason, I don't want to give you her name just yet without talking to her, but George and her fighting a different evening had actually wandered into her home. He was so drunk and had no idea where he was, and when she came home, luckily her kids were not there because she's a single mother with 3 kids. George was actually upstairs in her house, hollering and looking for Sarah, thinking he was in his apartment. So we've had some incidences with them in that aspect, but nothing has ever been so bad that, I didn't feel that we could resolve the problem. And like I said, we haven't had any issues since May of last year. No complaints, no nothing until this.
So you guys remember, this is the woman that Sarah thinks is going to be her best witness. This is the woman who knows everything about this going on. Now, she did lean a little bit towards Sarah being the abused and not the abuser, but it's not the best witness in the world.
So we thought, hey, they're doing great. Maybe they fixed their problems. I mean,
Has she come to you since May of any issues?
No,
Okay.
not one time. That's the run-ins and incidences that I've had with him. I've never seen a mark on George, and he's never told me that she's hit her at all.
Okay.
But she has told me in front of him that he has hit her and things that he's done, and he was not denying it. He never denied it. So George and her both expressed to me on many occasions that they knew they needed help. But I'm guessing due to their financial situation, not having any work, probably why they didn't do much.
Did one seem to be more dominant over the other?
George was very confident. He wasn't arrogant or anything. He for the most part, stayed to himself.
I found that interesting that she said, when he asked her who was the most dominant, she said George. Because I just don't see that. But maybe when Sarah was sober and they were normal, they were both sober, maybe George was the dominant one.
I said, there are a couple people here that he knew, you know, from, I will say, another life from Philadelphia. And, you know, George was the one I always seen driving the vehicle. George is the one I always seen playing with the child. You know, never saw Sarah outside playing with her kid, ever. As a matter of fact, most of the times you would find him riding around the property on his bike unattended. No parents outside, no nothing. But yeah, you didn't see Sarah out at all. The confrontation that took place in the office, she made an accusation on Emmett saying that he was trying to forcefully, like, I don't want to say rape, but he was trying to push himself on her.
On Sarah?
On Sarah. She made that claim.
Some tenant? A different tenant?
Yeah, another tenant that knew George from Philly. And they confronted the two of them. You know, I will say Sarah held her ground when the girl confronted her and asked her and said, you know, don't lie to my face. And Sarah said, yeah, he did. But it ended up, you know, just fizzling out. It was no big deal. After that situation took place, you really didn't see Sarah too much. She was pretty intimidated. Her nickname's Drunky the Bear. I mean, you know, literally. We know they drank from sunup to sundown.
Would she ever admit that she was an alcoholic to you?
Yeah.
She would?
Yes. Text messages. I know we drink too much and she had told me that George one time had enrolled in AA. You know, I think she was more concerned about the image that was being put in my head for them, and I think she was just trying to paint a prettier picture.
Right.
Yeah, Mel. And you know, one of the attorneys, if you guys have been watching the other videos we were doing on this, one of the attorneys that was originally assigned to Sarah's case, when they assigned him, he came to conflict out and found that he actually had represented Melissa, the apartment manager, during her DV cases, so he could not represent Sarah. So he got to conflict out as an attorney, public defender.
Because I will say, it was like a week later, she was drunk. So when we go, you know, inspecting the property and walking around different projects, we do a lot of pressure washing throughout the year. We do that a couple of times. You know, I ride around the back sides of the buildings, checking everything out. We've got a property drainage system back there. You always knew, because you'd ride back there and you'd hear 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, they're drunk, falling down, cutting up.
Because it's not.
These are your neighbors, the one that live next to you.
Okay. So I wanted to say here that, yeah, so even this is her apartment manager, who I guess you would call the landlord. Yeah. Is she going to be called as a witness? Well, she's already done a deposition. I think, yes, she will be. I think even if the state doesn't call her, Sarah's going to call her, because Sarah's only, it's her only friend.
Property manager does not live next to you. They see you every day. How many, you had two neighbors you went to and asked to go to the restroom.
It's not fair.
Hold on. You had two different neighbors that lived directly next to you. You asked to use the restroom and they told you no and turned you away. You had to go across the way to somebody else.
No, okay. Kim and Kim is not a nice person.
Okay.
She's just automatically not nice. Even after me and Lucas went over there and introduced ourselves, she's just not a nice person.
Then why would you think she would let you use a restroom?
Because Eli was in there. Eli comes over and talks to us sometimes, which I think pisses Kim off because he comes over and talks to us. The two of them, they're like super standoffish all the time. My neighbors down the street, down the way, their toilet was broken. They had stuff in the bathroom. So then they're like, go over there and try over there.
There's two bathrooms.
I wouldn't let somebody go upstairs and use my personal bathroom. That's what the downstairs one is for.
If it's somebody you like, would you? Or somebody you knew? They're
in the process of doing all this stuff in the kitchen, and there's stuff in the bathroom, and the toilet doesn't work. Just walk across the way, no problem. And of course they let me in.
Yeah, there was a neighbor who was actually, he lived in the complex with a bunch of his family. They had several units. He was a friend of George's back from Pennsylvania. And Sarah had accused him one time of hitting on her. I don't know if I want to say the R word. I don't think I think that's going a little bit too far on it. I think he did try to be touchy-feely with her, I guess. And she said something to the apartment manager about it, and she called the guy out in front of his girlfriend. Well, after that, that family seemed a little bit, I don't know how you want to put that, but that family obviously didn't like Sarah after that. And then Melissa made the comment about how Sarah stayed inside a lot. So it was almost like after that, she kind of kept to herself and didn't say much.
Them and them, they're together. They're families.
Okay, this is, I guess, at some point while the police were there on site, she asked to go to the bathroom? Or was this something that occurred before all this went down, that she tried to use somebody's bathroom and they told her no, she can't? And as the police were interrogating all the neighbors, this topic came up. That's the part I'm not really sure about. This must have happened when I'm answering.
And nonetheless,
this
if you really want to know, and I hope it doesn't get them in trouble, but he is over here illegally. So he's trying to work on getting his green card.
What does that got to do with you using the restroom?
They didn't want to be involved.
Should I use yours? You gotta use yours.
No, I was asking last night, because, I mean, we had several different people in the
Assuming
neighborhood come
that
up saying
Eli
that
and
she was
Kim,
drunk on a regular basis.
Eli and Kim, okay. Did you ask Vinny next door?
Those are the ones next door that she asked to use the restroom, and they said no.
Did you hear that? She said, did you ask Vinny next door? Oh, we heard from Vinny. Hang on just a minute, Sarah.
She said no.
Okay.
And like I said, she's not a nice person.
They're coming. What are your questions?
Yep.
I can help you with.
Their living room at the bottom of their stairs is right next to where my head lays on my bed. Okay. So literally, and it was like an every night thing, with the beat, and it wasn't even just him on her. It was like they were going at it, like at each other, and it was
really?
like, it was just really bad and really loud, like every night.
Was it verbally?
No, like physically, yeah. It was like.
So what were you hearing?
Like I couldn't physically hear like hitting, you know what I mean? But like I heard like thrown up against the wall, or like I've heard thrown down the stairs a few times. Like it's just and it's like that's a very clear sound, you know what I mean? Like you hear somebody up here get down here very fast, and it's like you just kind of know what happened. This happened so often, and they were known by the local police here or whatever that all the neighbors just stopped calling because the police were tired of it, pretty much. Like an every week thing, once or twice a week. So it was like, I don't know. And then there was the one night I was standing on my back patio, I was smoking a cigarette, and then she just randomly walked over and like started talking to me about how she like knows I can hear stuff. And then she was just like, if you ever hear anything like get really loud or whatever, like just keep quiet about it. Like pretty much like she was like respectfully like try to mind your own, like keep it to yourself, I was like, okay. He was an artist, and he was showing me like a bunch of his paintings and like artist drawings and stuff like that. So I mean, like they were cool people, but like there was something going on, especially with Sarah, you know what I mean? Like there was something going on with her, like you couldn't tell. It was like she wasn't all there, I mean, like it was so bad. It wasn't all the time, but it was like there was some mornings where I'd be leaving for school at 9 a.m. and I'd like see him like stumbling off the sidewalk right here, like that drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning, or like even earlier sometimes. It's like, it's ridiculous sometimes, but I do have to say, whenever her son was around, that was the only, like, the times where I never saw them ever drinking. That was the only time, you know what I mean? But like, other than that, it was like, they were drunk all the time. All the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was very visible, you know what I mean? They were like functioning alcoholics, you know what I mean? It was like they had to drink to get through the day, type thing. You know? I don't believe they're like towards like any type of drug, you know what I mean? Like, just like very visible, like
they were
alcohol, because like I've had like uncles and stuff that have dealt with it, so like I just know what it looks like to be a heavy alcoholic, and it's just like that's what it looked like, that they just had a lot of drinking problems, that night. So I was reading the article online about what happened and everything, and like it's just like that story is just like, it doesn't match like what we heard, you know what I mean? Like me and my roommate heard, it's just like it wasn't that quiet, like the whole like it was a joke or whatever, or like whatever, but it was too loud. Like I literally like it. I don't know about the whole, like, what the Suitcase deal was and everything, but it was just,
let's do this.
I didn't hear anything until, like, and before, like, the whole loud noise and everything, I just heard, like, the normal yelling at the verbal, like, yelling, and, like, the whole, like, arguing, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. No, it was elevated scream, but it was, like, normal, like.
Their normal.
Yeah, it was, like,
screaming.
Pretty much,
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. I would say probably a little later in the afternoon. Later in the afternoon there. Probably around like 7
Okay.
o'clock. It's like, because I feel like that's when like the things start settling in and they get a little more violent toward each other,
Okay.
you know? From what I heard in my room, it sounded like they were directly across from me, or
Okay.
like directly across and up. So like either in the rooms there, or like downstairs in the living room in that, you know, area right there. So I was up pretty late. I 1 a.m. that night, probably, right around there. Yeah. That night, right around, it was probably right around 10:30, 11 o'clock maybe, is when I heard like it get escalated, you know, like it's like the voices got louder, they were yelling, whatever, and then like it got quiet for a little while, and then I heard this really loud like slamming noise right around 11:15. It was about 15 minute span there, you know, like something like.
You guys, what he just said, he said right around 11:15. That's exactly when they think that George passed away. That's exactly what they had on the police report.
Was bouncing down the stairs between the railing and the wall and the stairs, like all the way down, like, you know, and it was clear because like my roommate even said it too, like he heard it up here and it kind of went away from him, and he's the front room here, and I'm in the back, so it was kind of like it was in the middle of the house
coming at
and came right at me, and it was literally right next to me, and I've never felt this before, but that night I was explaining to him the next day because he had said he heard the noise, and I was like, dude, I felt the wall shake. Like it was literally like such a powerful hit against the wall, like the wall shook, and I felt it. Like it was just bouncing, you know what I mean? Like down the stairs between like the wall and like.
And that was like.
We heard like yelling and stuff around like 10:30, 10:45ish, and then it got quiet for like 20, 30 minutes maybe, and then maybe like between 15 and 30 minutes around there,
No worries.
And it was like then that loud noise, and then I heard like shuffling around, and then just we both heard it at the same time. It just got silent, and I was just like, okay, I guess it's over, you know. I guess that was like the last like dead quiet after that. When they're fighting and they're arguing, you can clear. It's like being on the other side of a bedroom wall, you know, because it's apartments and they're so close.
And you were up till about 1 and you heard nothing else?
Nothing. I heard, like I said, like a little shuffling around down there, and then that was it. You can clearly hear like some like the I hate yous and the clear like cursing at each other and stuff.
He got up Sunday morning, went to work about 4:30, got home about 1. Things were quiet till probably about 7. He said that then he hears the arguing. He said it's the normal. He's in his bedroom. He can hear the I hate you going back and forth, you know, at a pretty much high volume, which is their normal arguing voice. This continues on pretty much throughout the night, but at right about 10:30, you hear a lot of arguing, right? It gets a little bit escalated at that point.
Yeah, it got louder.
And then right around 11:15, they hear this, he hears this banging coming down the stairs. He said hears bang, bang, bang. You can tell it's coming down the stairs because it starts and then it stops right next to him. And when it stopped, he said something just slammed the wall. He said it shook the wall. He said that was the first time he's ever felt like the whole wall shake like that. He said after that, it was quiet. He was up till about 1 o'clock.
I can't remember ever hearing like, I'm going to kill you, or like any type of like threat towards each other like that. But like, I've also like, it's very visible them sometimes. It used to be, you know, like it'd be very loud arguing, you know, and then the next morning you see her outside and bruises on her face, or him out here with like scratch marks everywhere, bruises everywhere, you know. There was a time where she came up to me and she was like, no matter like what you hear, pretty much like just kind of keep quiet about it, you know, respectfully, like mind your own business. And I was just like, okay, you know.
You remember when that was?
I would about 3.5, 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said the arguing was nightly. He said the reason the front office hasn't heard anything more is because everybody just kind of gave up calling.
Yeah, it was like
Would you complain in the past or no?
No, I never did. It was because like they've been here for so long, and all the other neighbors around here have been here for so long and stuff, and like I was talking to some other people that I met through the school that live in the apartment complex and everything, and they were saying like, you know, people just don't really like them all that much, you know. They were like very, I guess it was just the way they came across, you know, with everybody, you know. It was just like the way they presented themselves, you know. They were always drunk, like I was saying before, like always, like sun up to sundown type,
Yeah.
like all the time. I guess people just didn't really want to
Interact.
Yeah, what I've heard, in the past and everything, that was just like, it was just, you could tell it was just a very violent relationship, a very toxic relationship that had a lot of problems.
His roommate bedroom is in the front of the building, which is the bottom portion of this picture, and his is at the top. Her staircase is closer to his in his bathroom there. And what I found interesting is that they said it was about 11:15-ish, 11:30-ish when the noise was going on, right? And then, of course, we know that she didn't report it till closer to 1 p.m. And I want to say she said she started talking to Brian between 11 and noon. Don't quote me on that time period. But Dorm 4067 brought up a good point in comments. He said, or she said, I'm sorry, it's Doom 4076. Rigor mortis sets in after 2 hours between 2 to 12, it kind of starts to really set in, right? How in the heck, if she didn't wake up until the following day, which we know was 5 to 6, 8, how even if it was just 6 or 8 hours later, his body still would have started to stiffen. How did she get him out of that suitcase to give him CPR? Because remember, that was approximately 12 hours from when he got or from when they heard the banging noise go down the stairs or whatever. From that time period to when she was on the phone with the cops and they were talking about CPR. And she didn't seem out of breath when she was giving the CPR. So was she really doing it? Leah says, something that always bothers me is that Sarah always seems to have a cigarette in her hand, but she didn't go downstairs until 12:30ish the next day. Oh, gosh, Leah. Beautiful point. Oh, I didn't even think about that. And I'm a smoker. You're absolutely right. Unless, okay, this is the part where I start to kind of like play with the conspiracy of it all, right? Part of me says, okay, she woke up probably between 9 and 10. And of course, the first thing she's going to do is go and get something to drink. Because when you wake up, you're hungover, you need something to drink. And even if she could have gotten a glass of water from her sink upstairs in the bathroom, but I really feel like she probably would have gone downstairs. And I think that there were several hours there where she knew he was gone. She left him laying there in the middle of the floor, deceased. And then she goes out on the patio and starts smoking and trying to figure out what the hell she's going to do. And maybe that's where she was making all the phone calls and everything on the patio, trying to explain to her, trying to figure out what she was going to say. What's her story going to be? Because if it happened the way she says it happened, to where, she didn't do anything and he got in there on his own, then she's going to wake up, and it's not until she wakes up is she going to try to figure out what her story was. The other conspiracy I had was, if it didn't happen that way, then he died. She knew he died that night before she went to bed. And she stayed up really late trying to figure out what to do until she finally did pass out. And then when Brian woke her up around 11 or 12-ish, she kind of had some ideas of what she was going to say. And then that's where she came up with the story of she didn't go downstairs when she woke up. She knew before she went to pass out that he was already gone. So I'm just playing, I think there's a little bit more to it than what we have been told. And what we know, obviously, we know that she's a liar. So, y'all put your conspiracies down in the chat below. D-Man says, in humans, rigor mortis can occur as soon as 4 hours after death. Well, I just read something where it was 2 hours after death. It says, contrary to folklore and common belief, rigor mortis is not permanent and begins to pass within hours. Okay, yeah, but see, the thing that I read is that it does pass for like anywhere between 12 to 48 hours. So I'm just thinking, his body is cold and stiff. How is she going to get it out of the suitcase? Of course, I've never done. I mean, have any of you guys ever mess with a dead body? I mean, we don't know. We don't know. I would just think that he's stiff and you can't move him around. Yeah, she went up to get a Dr. Pepper, Leah. That's what I'm thinking. she'd been up drinking Dr. Pepper. She was up the night before drinking Dr. Well, I don't know. She probably passed out the night before, but he could have died soon after her videos. Yeah. That could have been like the last phases. And I feel like it started upstairs. We don't know what time it started, but then at 11, and this was the other thing too that Vincent said in his thing, that they were hearing them fighting and everything else like normal. Well, Sarah says they weren't fighting, they were playing and having a good time. They were drawing and doing arts and crafts, and then it's like, okay, what do you want to do next? You want to go watch a movie? Let's play hide and seek. Okay, I'm going to go hide in the shower. Okay, so she goes upstairs to hide in the shower. He doesn't come find her because he's smart and he wants to be away from her. And she gets all pissed off, and that starts the fight. Or did Sarah make up this entire hide and seek thing? Inquiring minds want to know. It drives me crazy. I want to know what happened. And maybe Tuesday we'll learn a little bit more. Patty says, I just looked at Google, says our rigor mortis leaves after 36 hours after death. Yeah, I think it's kind of like, yeah. Hey, Lenny. Her selective memory and hearing are staggering. She keeps saying things are unlawful, and then she provides case law that shows it's not unlawful. She reiterates that it's unlawful and exploitive. You're right, April Knight. We also don't know what other substances both of them had in their system in addition to the wine. Everything that I've heard, well, Brian mentioned something about possibly doing some drugs or something, but he didn't think she was really doing drugs. Maybe smoking marijuana? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think most of it was just alcohol. So I would love for you guys, if it allows you to put that much in a comment, what is your conspiracy theory about this? Like, what do you think happened? What happened out on that lawn? What happened in that apartment? What happened upstairs before that suitcase went down the stairs? You know, when I first started watching this, I thought that she put him in the suitcase. It all happened downstairs. And then they bring the bat into it. There's something about the bat. I don't know if the bat had anything to do with this, though. They're just probably speculating because they figure, well, it could be a weapon. We'll put it into evidence. But I think the prosecutor is going to come in and he's going to spell it all out and say, this is what I think happened, or this is the way we believe things happened from all the evidence that we've gathered. Oh, it's going to be interesting, you guys. And, you know, maybe they don't have to go through too much of a detail in it when they lay it out to the jury. Maybe they've got this video does so much that it's not even necessary. Maybe she hit the suitcase down the stairs with the bat, or maybe she hit him and knocked him out and then put him in the suitcase and then kicked the suitcase downstairs. You know, we just don't know. Nothing she says is true. Nothing that comes out of her mouth is true. Bama says drunks are limber. Maybe she knocked him in the head with the bat and knocked him out and then put him in the suitcase. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It could be. I just don't get this hide and seek thing. Something I said from day one, I'm like, who does that? Celestial's worried she's going to get off on the battered women syndrome. I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think the testimony from the different witnesses, this is only why I say this. Everybody that was around them has said that she was the aggressor. Brian said, and he will say again when he gets on the stand, I'm sure, that when they started fighting, or when she started drinking, she was always trying to grab him around the neck or scratch him around the neck, right? And then you heard Moses, his brother, talk about how she was at the house, even in front of his family. Then you hear Vincent talk about how he, George was a cool dude, but Sarah was wacky. I mean, really, everybody's testimony it goes against her. Yeah, and I want to hear that autopsy report. I really do. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank you all for being with me this evening. I'm going to take this last portion that we've done here, and I'm going to put it up for tomorrow morning. So if it comes up, you can watch it again if you'd like. But don't get mad at me for putting it up twice. Y'all stay well. Have a great evening. Don't forget to go over and say hello to Laura's channel, Interesting Captures. She's doing some more stuff on, what's his name? Oh, Laura. I forgot his name. The clown murderer. It's crazy, the stuff that she has. It's absolutely crazy. Mandy said I could talk Sarah Boone every day. Come up, call me. Gacy. Thank you. Gacy. That's it. John Wayne Gacy. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. I will talk to you very soon. Stay well. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe on your way out. And feel free to leave a comment. Have a blessed day.